Meeting into order, and I read the public hearing.
Order at what, 6:43, and Patricia Pollock sitting in for Adam Clifford there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, then what do you open it for the applicant to present their question? Their
Oh,
query?
No, I gotta read the public hearing first. Thank you. Notice is hereby given that the Village of Homer Zoning Board of Appeals will meet in person at the Town Hall in Homer located at 31 North Main Street on December 5th, 2024 at 6:30 PM to consider the following pursuant to the current Village of Homer Code of Ordinances. Appeal 511-110 South Main Street, a lot line adjustment without meeting the minimum allowed 15 feet setback. Appeal 512-61 North Main Street to modify an existing detached garage to be used as an accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah, what about the one regarding running the utilities out there? What's that?
That's the next one.
That's the next one. The lot line adjustment is first.
Second.
This gentleman, Mr. Wedgie, was here before the planning board last night and they approved his plan, subject to him getting the requisite variance. And my understanding, Mr. Wedgie can speak for himself, but his survey way back when was messed up. He found that he didn't have as much land as he thought. And correct me if I'm wrong, you've been able to negotiate purchasing about 4 feet from your neighbor. And now you're here to do a lot line adjustment.
That's exactly right.
Kevin, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. He's in front of the zoning board because the lot line adjustment still, his house and property remains as a non-conforming lot because the side yard setback is still under the 10 feet.
I just had one question to start with to clarify the image. Could you pull back the photograph of the property we're talking about?
There you go.
Well, you know that
Other one?
the other picture you gave us was better.
Okay, hold on one moment. It stops sharing. All right.
Mr. Rich, could you show us on that photo what you're requesting?
Okay, the border stake right now is right even with the corner of the house right here, back under the roof line. So the roof line actually hangs out onto the Hess property. I want to move the stake out to even with this fence right here. This fence goes all the way to the back of my property, but also bring it over 4 feet. So if you can see, there's a difference in the shade of the grass right here. Right then there would where they have 4 feet of the stake. Right there would be 4 feet and it would come out here to this line on the sidewalk. There's a stake right here. But then I can't buy the property on the other side of the fence. They don't want to sell that. Of course, they take the fence down. There's a pool back there. So I'd go to the inside of that fence. Instead of going all the way to the corner of the house, I go to the inside of the fence and straight back.
And that from your house to the inside of that fence is 4 feet or less?
No,
than
the 4
over
feet
there?
is out to the where that shaded area is on the.
And to the
grass.
fence, it's less than 4 feet?
Yeah,
Something less.
yeah, it was more like, I forgot now, maybe 18 inches.
Anybody?
County planning was fine.
And am I correct, Kevin? I guess, am I correct that certainly leaves enough property line for the neighboring property not to be out of compliance? Is that right?
The neighboring property, the Hess property, is still well within compliance for setbacks, even with the movement of the stake 4 feet.
Does anybody else have anything?
Did I see a letter from
The Hess family,
Yes, Felicia Hess. She's the executor of the state.
because I know they're all down there cleaning out.
Yeah, they have done.
They had several, yard sales.
I gave that to Kevin, the letter from Felicia.
Yeah, I found it banging.
Okay.
Anything else we need to do then, or anybody else who wants to speak for you, or anything else you want to?
I'm all set. No, I'm all set if you guys.
Mr. Redmail, do a balancing test, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll close the public hearing.
Officially close the public hearing and then do the balancing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion closed.
Is that the motion?
I'll do it.
okay, balancing test, wait, he doesn't have an area variance, yes, he does. It's called bulk here, but we mean area.
It's an area variance.
Would there be an undesirable change in the neighborhood character or a detriment to nearby properties? Can the benefit be achieved by other means feasible to the applicant? Right? No for me. Is the requested variance substantial?
I don't think it is.
No.
That's my opinion.
Would the variance have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood? And has the alleged difficulty been self-created? No. That would be the balancing test. We've got negative all the way through 1 to 5 on all of them. So we call for
Motion
a
to
motion
approve.
to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
All right.
Don't forget, Mr. White, about the deed. So-
Yes, I've been thinking about a lot. I got Jim Barnell.
Good,
Take care.
He will help you.
Yep.
Good.
You're all set.
You're all set.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Welcome, thank you.
Wait.
Yes,
Oh, that's fine.
Are they?
yes, second applicant is on the Zoom.
Anthony and Megan Carioli.
So this is an area of variance, what they're at.
Use.
Here.
Use of variance. They are, Megan, if you can unmute yourself.
No.
Or,
Anthony?
Being requested, Dan, is an area variance.
okay,
And Kevin, is it because of it not being of legal use or
Yeah.
because of it's outside of the main structure?
So, Dan, after some discussions with Fran and with Trish at County, comes the realization that probably didn't even need to go in front of you people in the zoning board. Once we could get as clear as possible, for definitions on dwellings and allowed use, Fran can, back me up here regarding dwellings versus multiple. So in the R2 district, 2-family dwellings are allowed. However, in the definitions of local ordinance, there's no distinction between the 2-family being connected or detached. And therefore, this could have gone just through as a regular building permit without the ask for a variance.
I think's going on. The code is old, way old. Doesn't really anticipate, which is now the wave of the future. We're trying to get residents for your mom, your father, your aunt, your uncle, or something like that. You read 2812, this is in an R2 residential district. It is the general purpose and intent of the R2 residential district to provide for areas within the village where 1, 2, 3, and 4 family dwelling units with their related facilities can be developed in harmony with one another in promoting the general purpose of this chapter. Then it says uses permitted by right in the R2 residential district shall be as follows. Single family units, dwelling family units, not including mobile homes, 2-family dwelling units, and 3-family dwelling units. So it's telling you in an R2 district, you can have up to 3 dwelling units in a building as a use as of right. And then if you read what it says here in 2812A, it says, I'll repeat it again. It is the general purpose and intent of the R2 residential district to provide for areas within the village of Homewood where 1, 2, 3, and 4 family dwelling units with their related facilities can be developed in harmony with one another.
So is that where the issue is? Because they're gonna have separate utilities?
Yeah, I think what Kevin's saying is this, and he makes a good point, is that if they change the garage to a residence, which looks like clearly you're okay to do, he saying that it probably would be good to have an area variance so that it's clear that there's going to be 2 residential structures on 1 tax map number. The county is fine with it. Kevin, am I saying what you want?
You're exact, yes.
So the area variance would be, if granted, that's what it would be about. My only issue, and I would rather hear from the applicants before I go any further. Go ahead, why don't we find out what what they want to do over here?
All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, this is Megan Perioli. We're looking to make it an in-law suite for my parents, and we have talked about would it be valuable for us to make it a second property? Like I think what you were saying is, having it zoned separately, is that necessary?
No, you don't have to be zoned, you're zoned as of right, in my opinion. You see you understand what I'm trying to say, what the code officer is trying to say?
Yeah, can you repeat it one more time for me?
What he's trying to say is the reason he feels that there's a need for an area variance is that if it's granted, you're going to go from 1 residential structure on 1 tax map number to 2 residential structures. Your house and the garage on 1 residential structure, 1 tax map number.
Okay.
No, just a quick question.
Yeah.
So in the village, in an R2 district, someone could build a second residence on their property legally?
It looks to me that you'd be hard pressed to say no.
Okay.
Because, again, this code, and we're getting to a new code, is old. It didn't contemplate this kind of, elder family residence. But if you read it and you look at the general intent of every district, it basically allows, if you had a 3-unit apartment house with related facilities, it's allowed. So if you sort of think logically, if it's saying it's allowing, it actually with site plan, it allows 4 units with related facilities. How can it not allow a single family with a detached other residence? I mean, it's allowing already up to 3.
I can speak to that somewhat since I've worked with this since 1985. And the major stumbling block with this kind of a thing in communities across the country is the fear that the property owner will subdivide and make it into two separate independent properties.
That's what we were gonna,
Exactly.
if it's granted, it can be granted with conditions. 1, you can't subdivide. 2, you can make an argument and listen to the applicant. You can say, this is for the in-law only, and that kind of stuff. It's not to have another apartment house there.
So if this was connected, if there was a breezeway from the house to this garage, it would really be 1 unit, the kind of single, it would be two units inside 1 structure. If there was some sort of a connecting corridor between the two. And what it's missing is doing all the same thing that we're hearing about. It just is missing that connecting bridge corridor between them to have 2 units in one
And I
place.
think, one, you'd have to look at the area variance. I think, it would be, it's not totally inconsistent with what your older code's saying. If your code's saying you can have a 3-family dwelling unit there.
Right, so
with-
my concern is this, those houses that are all along that river right there, that back all the way up there. Someone says, all right, now I'm gonna put 4 houses in a row. Why can't you do, what's the difference?
I think what you can do is, I think if they're putting 4 houses, you can say, no, this, I understand what you're saying, but I think you could say, no, you can't put 4 houses there.
Most ordinances around the country, when they're allowing this, require that the utilities be attached to the main house. They do not allow independent utilities. So this is asking for independent utilities, isn't it? Which would speak to what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that that's fine to have more than 1 unit there. My thing is this, like, those yards are big. I mean, someone could, buy one of those houses and say, all right, now I'm gonna build 3 more houses on
The
it.
other thing we can do tonight, if we want, and this would only have to be up with the applicant, and especially, we'd have to figure this out, since you don't have the full board here, your chairperson's not here, is how quickly are you looking to build?
Well, we have to wait for the ground to thaw now if we want to do water and sewage. But my parents live in South Carolina and they're in their 70s and are very isolated where they are. So they'd like to eventually be here within 2025 would be ideal for them.
What we can do, so that we could get more time to answer your question, which is
Yeah, I think we
valid.
should iron that out. I mean, because if we
Answer your
approve one-
question is if the applicant's willing, and I can't say they're going to approve or deny this variance request, but if you want to agree to table it, the applicant would have to say that they're in agreement to table it. We can table it for 30 days so that we can do more research on this
Yeah.
to see what we can or cannot do.
Mhm.
And I can't guarantee it's going to get granted or denied, ma'am, but you hear one member saying he's got some concerns. So, I mean, if you and your husband are willing to table this for a month, then we can hear a little bit more from you, and then we can do a little bit more research to try to answer everybody's question on what clearly is a rather vague topic with this code.
Okay. I mean, we're not going anywhere. The weather's not going to be conducive to doing any sort of work in the garage. So we're fine with
All right, so
giving it
you're
a little
okay
time.
tabling it with a month, and we can't guarantee an approval or denial. We're just gonna try to do more research on this.
Yeah. And we have no desire to build more structures.
Okay, yes.
The applicant look into joining the utilities from the main house to this accessory unit.
I think that's the whole thing.
I think that's the crux of it as far as.
Motion to take 30 days.
Yeah, and then,
Then I'll second it.
okay, and then Kevin, you can talk with the applicant. I don't know if it's doable or not about hooking or catching utilities from the house to the garage. That's beyond me. That might be an issue for you.
Yeah, that's probably doable in some fashion. All I know is that the village currently has other structures in place where this is currently existing with apartments and separated detached structures. I don't have exact addresses on the tip of my tongue, but it's currently being done in the village. And so apparently the intent of the law was the same then as it is, as I see it now. But nonetheless, I don't know that that's a sticking point for moving forward. But again, if we want to give it 30 days and the applicant's willing to do so, that's fine by me.
So Kevin, just a quick question for you. In your mind, if someone were to come to you and say, you know, they own one of those lots that are deep and big and wide and large enough site-wise and everything, they would be legally allowed to put up more than two residents on that site? Like they could have three separate single-family homes?
What I would probably recommend to them at that point, Dan, is rather than meeting with your board is to go for a site plan review through the planning board. Because it's not, again, it's not necessarily, as I see it, truly, after discussing it with Trish and Fran, it's really not a variance, but I certainly think it would be subject to, at the bare minimum, site plan review. Because these are allowed uses in that district.
Kevin, does our ordinance state that there's only one principal use on a lot in an R2? I don't have a copy of the ordinance in front of me.
No, that's not how it's stated. It's stated that by right, single family, two family, and three family dwellings are allowed. 4 family is subject to review. That's how the ordinance reads.
Well, no, I understand
The
that. but that's
question you
separate.
have here is, again, you're trying to fit something that is now clearly what people are wanting to do for their mom and dads or their relatives. They want to do that. And you know, again, your points are well taken. I think the problem you have is this code is so dated. You're trying to fit it, you're trying to fit it in and trying to understand what the intent was. And if you look at this, what it says here, it says where 1, 2, 3, and 4 family dwelling units and their related facilities. So if you think of that, suppose you have one building with 4 units, right?
Yeah.
4 lines. Does that mean you can have 4 garages? Is that considered a related facility? And no, I'm just looking, that's what I'm saying. It's so gray, and if you read it that way, it's a matter of right.
I'm seeing, like, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I was just wondering.
No, your
like,
point-
putting up a
point's well
bunch of houses,
taken. It's
Because I
because-
know that people
No,
that live down
and
there,
I
if
understand,
someone bought a piece of land,
No,
put up 3 houses on it,
your
and
point's well taken, and
people would be all up in arms.
I'm just trying to do this as
You
fairly,
know?
as fairly as possible for the applicant as well. I
You
mean,
can't separate the property.
the trouble you have is that it doesn't fit because it wasn't contemplated back then. But if you read this literally, you can do a lot with a 3-family dwelling and whatever is supposed to be related facilities, because related facilities is not defined in this code. So if you really think that through, like I said, you could have one building with 3 dwelling units and then have,
And there are multiple.
3
places in that
garages,
same
and that's
zoning
fine.
district That have more than 4 units in it, you know
So
what I mean?
if the applicant's okay, they seem to indicate they are, why don't we table it and try to get everybody's questions answered? And then I can do a little bit more research on this and we can come back in January. So they've agreed to table it in the January meeting, so let's try to do it at the January meeting. That okay, ma'am?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Fran, one last item I'd like to point out is that county review found absolutely nothing wrong with the
Yeah,
idea
I
or the
mentioned that.
plan.
County's fine with it. So, the county is fine with it. So, well, let me do some work, because I'm gonna try to answer everyone's questions, so let me see what we can do.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Dan. Thanks.
Thank you.
No
Thanks, board.
problem.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Megan.
All right, take care.
Roads and who
Yep.
has nothing to do with. Usually, pretty much. across the
Well,
country.
let's finish the meeting and then we can talk about it.
We need to adjourn the meeting?
Yeah, you have
We
Anything
to,
have to
else?
do the
you
minutes.
you have to do the minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. They're in the back.
Right.
Thank Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
I second the motion.
Those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Meeting's adjourned.
Motion to
Seven-
adjourn the meeting?
Yeah, give it the time, please.
The only thing I want
Wait,
to.
well-
Is
Wait, wait.
This is where I'm to, are we done?
No, enjoy the meeting, please. No, you didn't. No
I
motion.
make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, aye.
Thank you.
We could have done it. I'm this Zoom and all this other stuff.